Okay. Starting one more time. This is part 2. We all waited to get this up. I don't know what's happening to the internet today. Okay, so you asked a great question. Hi, Javi. Good you joined. All right. So your question is, what if your husband is doing something wrong? Do you afterwards, behind his back, speak to your kids about it? It really depends what it is. The general answer is no. Again, then you get into what if it's like religiously wrong, morally wrong, you know, it's sometimes hard, dangerous, right? So in those situations, then you do have to, but you need guidance. You can never do it out of like anger. You can never do it from a place of vindictiveness of like, well, at least I make sure the kids know you're really wrong. You can't do it from that angle. But if it was more along the lines of like, I don't know, the normal range stuff that our husbands can do that we would call wrong, like Shira's example, you know, putting on the wrong size shoes. So you don't want to tell your husband directly. So instead you tell your kids, well, you should all make sure that you never take someone else's shoes. AKA, I'm criticizing you without saying it, right? So like that, we drop, we don't do. And it's very, very, very important for us all to remember, and it's very easy to forget. The more I diminish my husband, the more I make him small, the smaller he becomes. You know, it's very simple.
How do you know that's true?
If I make him small, he becomes small. And if he becomes small, who wins? Well, he doesn't win. He became smaller. I don't win. I have a smaller husband. My kids don't win. They have a smaller father. So my constructive criticism means lose, lose, lose. He loses, I lose, and the family loses. But you're saying sometimes, I mean, what if the father's being Machal Shabbos, right? You know, what if he's in front of the kids eating not kosher food? You know, so I think that type of stuff, instead of talking to the kids about how wrong it is, there has to be some type of calm, not upset, non-emotional conversation between the two partners of like, what is and isn't acceptable to do in front of the children. And I think even in that conversation, the parameters is you're nobody's rabbi. You're not at all telling him what to do personally. If it's not relevant to you, if it's not affecting the household, you're not going to per se get involved. But in front of the children, we have to have an understanding of what's acceptable.
What about like,
and that's much better than telling the kids, oh, don't do what daddy does.
what about like, let's say, I mean, I don't have that situation, but let's say like the father's there and the kids with the father, let's say, and the father's, I don't know, letting them turn the TV on or play with the TV or like amongst a toy or something. And then you come in and you're like, oh, you know, you're not allowed to do that. Like it's Shabbos, it's muksa. And then the kid goes, oh, but daddy let me do it.
So probably what I would say in that situation is daddy's really tired. He works hard all week. I don't think he was focusing. So you're not saying daddy was wrong. Daddy wasn't wrong. Daddy, like me, how many times did my kids do something wrong in front of me? Ma, how did you let so-and-so do that? I didn't even notice. They were right under your nose. I'm not very noticing, you know? Sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not true, but you can always say it. I didn't notice. I didn't realize. Of course, if I noticed, I would never have allowed that. Sometimes you tell a child something, like you said, picking your battles. You tell a child something and the child doesn't listen to you and you don't notice. You're choosing not to notice, you know? So we can use that technique in many ways.
What if it's just a bad behavior?
Like,
Spitting, swearing, like littering, just a bad behavior.
so again, I think you gotta pick and choose, and it's not, again, you're saying, so my gain is my child doesn't litter. My loss is my child looks down at his father.
And they go to school and they start cursing.
I mean, I think
So again, cursing's different, but littering, spitting, again, yes, it's a loss if they litter. It's a bigger loss if they look down at their father. It's a loss if they spit. It's a bitter loss if they look down at their father.
The kid know if you don't do that just because daddy does it. Not every adult knows what's right.
But again, what she's saying is to tell the child, oh, don't act like daddy's acting. Daddy does it, make sure you don't do it. Daddy does it, but it's wrong. You shouldn't do it. So what you gain is that your child thinks very little of their father. And maybe the littering or the spitting it's not good, but you're weighing which is more important. But now again, the cursing would be a very different thing. Both, you don't want your child to curse, that's a much more significant thing. And definitely, you know, once they hit school or something, they're gonna have a lot of problems. So there again, I would go back to the father with it. Instead of you telling the child, don't do what daddy's doing, it's something like, this is something that Stephen is picking up. And there's gonna be a lot of repercussions. There'll be repercussions in the school, the repercussions socially, the repercussions, other people will want him to play at their house. So it's not fair for him. You want to curse, great, but not when he's around. That's what, let's make an agreement on that.
No, I was gonna say they're probably gonna lose respect for their father also. They're not gonna listen to that.
If they see him behaving this way.
If you're saying like, you know, daddy shouldn't be doing.
Of course, absolutely. And there are times you really need them to respect him. So it doesn't help you either, but it also doesn't help them. It's not good for them to look at their father and feel like a shaky feeling. And a lot of time when parents are mad at their spouse and they get back by criticizing the spouse in front of the kids and getting the kids on their side, it's so not fair for the kids, because then the kids look at their parent and they don't feel safe, they don't feel good, you know, and that's a big harm you're doing to your child. It's really hurts the child. So what we were saying was step one, which is gratitudes, including gratitudes for the things that he's supposed to do. As I was saying, my initial point that we got a little lost from, it's appropriate to be grateful for things that people are supposed to do. It's not, as I'm saying, it's very appropriate for people to be grateful that you make supper, grateful that you take care of the kids. They always say it's good to go away because your husband sees how hard you work, you know, and then they have much more gratitude for the things you do all day long. They don't know what you're doing all day long. Let go away for a day, and then they realize what you're doing all day long, and they're grateful. What are they grateful for? For the things you're supposed to be doing. There's nothing wrong with being grateful for something a person's supposed to be doing. It's not only like we need the extras to be grateful. When he brings me flowers, I'm grateful. When he brings me jewelry, I'm grateful. When he takes out the garbage, I'm not grateful. Be grateful for taking out the garbage. And if you took out the garbage and you didn't ask, you just took it out of the bag, tied it up, and put it next to the door, you know, you're even more grateful. Because you could have ended up doing that. Of course, well, he should, and he did. And that's awesome that he does what he should do. Secret, many husbands don't. Okay?
My husband does everything. He walks, he cleans, he works, he learns, he has in the school.
So she has.
He shops all day.
So Heidi has no problem.
I never shop.
So she has no problem twice a day coming up with 5 things to be grateful for. 5 things you appreciate in your husband. That she was saying that as a joke.
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke.
Amazing.
No, it's not a joke. I'm saying on another end, you don't really want to talk about your husband to your friends. That's not really appropriate. But sometimes if the conversation sort of veers that way, if you're talking to a friend, it's so nice to point out how special their husband is. Not in an inappropriate way. She was very appropriate.
I always totally marry Adam.
No, that you don't say. That you don't say. But the good stuff, and not in like I feel so bad for me because my husband doesn't do this, but your husband does. But just like, wow, appreciate it. I don't know who in the world, when you're at a gas station, the husband goes out and fills up your car for you. Wow, that's so nice. That's so gentlemanly. I made up an example. My husband doesn't do it. Okay, it doesn't bother me at all, and my husband's never done it for me once, and he's great. So I was just making up a random example of like something you see. It's really nice to help another woman by complimenting, not in a negative way. I don't have this, but just in like a positive, effusive way. Wow, your husband, so nice that your husband does this. It's so nice that your husband does it. You don't know what you're doing for the other person. You don't know how you're helping the other person, because we take things for granted. We take things for granted. But going back to like, Shira's example, so what if he's doing it and he's messing it all up? So you, with your brilliant mind, like I said, figure out a way he's not going to mess it up. figure out a way no one can mess it up, instead of telling him, I mean, I don't know how much intelligence it takes to know which pair of shoes go to which child. Like, I don't know how stupid you are. Like, I don't know how small I want to make you. Make my husband, make the father of my children, and make you. Again, you don't think of it, but that's exactly what you're doing. Turn it around. Imagine someone saying that to you. Oh, well, I would never do that. And if you did?
You'd be like, Zach, are your shoes a little too tight to do that?
No, you could very quietly just go and switch the shoes yourself without saying a word.
Well, you kind of want to make sure that.
No, you tomorrow set out everyone's clothing and have nice little cute labels. She was awesome at that. Cute little labels for each child, and nobody will mess it up. Okay, so gratitude daily, twice a day, 5 things, a breath in my marriage. And then my goal, of course, is for you to write it down. And my goal is, when you're feeling anxious about your marriage, when you're feeling unhappy about your marriage, reread it. Reread it. And if you say, I can't think of 5 things to write, work at it. It's a muscle. Gratitude is a muscle. Appreciation is a muscle. Thinking is a muscle. And the more we do it, the better we get at it.
What if you have a really hard marriage?
If you're in that really hard marriage, you want it to get better.
I'm saying, how do you
In a
become
really hard marriage, you made a choice to stay in the marriage. And if you made a choice to stay in the marriage, you want to make the marriage better. It's not like, I have a horrible marriage and I'm suffering because I can't financially support myself. I'm suffering because I know my kids will be traumatized by divorce and I'm waiting until they're all 25. So I'm just saying, like, typical scenarios of why women stay in horrible marriages. Those are usually the 2 most basic reasons. So what? It's a bad marriage. You want to make it better, as versus just keep suffering for the next, oh, well, he's 2 and I'm waiting until he's 25, you know? So you want to make it better, and appreciating makes it better. And also, when you're appreciating, even though we're going to get to complimenting, hopefully, but even just appreciating shifts your energy. And if your energy is shifted, again, I'm not saying that we're talking about an abusive, cruel, vindictive person who's trying to harm you. If that's the case, you should get out no matter what. So you're not talking about that. You're talking about just a bad marriage, not a good marriage. It's just, you know, if it's an abusive marriage, you get out and you don't worry about the other stuff. If it's a cruel marriage, you get out. You don't worry about the other
Maybe go
stuff.
back to when you were dating them, like they were all like, oh, I fell in love with them.
Yeah, those are good things.
But sometimes they change.
They change.
Like, you know, they become completely different. Like, they're self-absorbed.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
and they just don't
people change.
think about you,
People
they
change.
don't
Maybe you
lie.
feel sorry for them.
That could
Their
help.
compassion, last week.
That we spoke about compassion, and that helps. But I'm saying, even if a person, no, again, if it's a abusive, cruel marriage, get out. We're not talking about that. So if we're not talking about that, but it's not a good marriage and you really will get out, but you don't financially feel you can support yourself and you'd rather be in this marriage and not have financial worries, or you're doing it for your kids because you've decided it's better for them. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but that's your decision. Then you still want to make it better because you're living this every day. And making it better is by noticing the little good there is and appreciating it. Because when you notice a little good and appreciate it, it shifts your energy. And if it shifts your energy, it's going to shift the energy in the home. And if it shifts the energy in the home, it will make things better. I'm not saying from bad to good, but from bad to better.
So is not just for not putting that thing on smaller to like make him smaller, but is that the way to like build him up to just make him bigger and like
Absolutely.
appreciation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which means even those little things, and again, we're going to talk about complimenting, but even those little things that you're doing, so much is our mood. You know, so much in our world, the world didn't used to be like this. It used to be, you know, our ancestors dealt with real stuff. It didn't make a difference how positive your attitude was. It was real stuff. It was real starvation. It was real deprivation. It was real enemies. But so much in our world has so much to do with our emotional space.
Why does it make it so difficult for women? We're always hormonal, we're always nuts. And is this part of our ongoing tests to try to
Maybe.
beat it?
Maybe, and some women are more and some women are less, but definitely we all on some level struggle with it. But let's say you have a child that's not doing well in school. Simple, very common example. So you could be worried and anxious and fearful and already prognosticating what's going to happen because of this. Or you could be calm, be positive. No, you had other kids that didn't do well in school and they're all happy now. But you didn't do well in school and you're fine. You know, whatever you tell yourself, you still have to deal with the issue. You still have to get the tutoring or speak to the teacher, speak to the principal. You got to deal with it. But if you're dealing with it from a positive, center, calm space, it shrinks so much. And it's definitely the same thing with everything else in our life. If we're in an appreciative space, just from your journaling twice a day, and you're being grateful for the stuff that you did like when you were going out and hasn't changed, though you don't think about it because some of the other problems. You know, you're grateful for the garbage. You're grateful that he's a responsible person and works 9 to 5. Maybe he doesn't make that much money, but he's doing his best and he's working, and you're grateful that he's responsible. Many husbands aren't. You're grateful he brings home his paycheck. Husbands don't. Like, you know, things that you take for granted because obviously, but guess what? There's a world out there of people that don't do these things. And when you are in that space, your energy is different. And if your energy is different, the energy in the house is different. And if the energy in the house is different, little by little, his energy is going to be different. It takes time, but little by little, you will see the shift. Don't expect it to happen in a week, but if you stick with it, you will see the shift. Okay. Next thing, identifying and looking at your negative language and your negative thoughts. Some of us by nature are more negative. Anyone here can identify themselves as more pessimistic by nature? Nobody. Okay. You have a kid like that. Okay. Help your kids by working on yourself.
Family members.
You have family members like that. Okay. So we know what we're talking about. So there are people that just their nature. It's their nature. Like Shira said, some women, or she's decided all womankind are hormonal. I'd say some are more. There's some people by nature are very pessimistic. And some people are trained, they're not naturally pessimistic, but they're very negative in how they speak to other people. And some people are exclusively very negative when they speak to their husbands. Maybe that's because that's how they saw their mothers talking to their fathers. I don't know. Maybe that's how they see people around them talking. Maybe that's how the media is portraying it. But somehow some people give themselves, just like people that are very careful with lashon hara, they don't gossip, but talking to your husband isn't gossip, right? So the same way, people are very careful to be very nice and respectful, but not to their husbands. And very often those same people not to their kids. But some people are to their kids and not to their husband.
I think it's universal, it's not just a Jewish concept, like.
Oh, it's not Jewish. No, I'm not saying it's a Jewish thing. No, I'm not saying it's a Jewish thing. I didn't mean it as, I didn't mean it as a Jewish thing. Yeah, it's a universal thing. I think the reason people who are nice to other people are not nice to their husbands is because the closer someone is to you, the safer it is to be yourself. You know what I mean? Like at work, you would never act like that. At work, you worry about your panty posting your change. Like, you know what I mean? Like at work, you gotta like look the part, and we gotta talk the part. To the delivery boy that I'm never gonna see again, I would never act that way. I have to be appropriate. I have to be nice.
It doesn't affect you emotionally.
It doesn't emotionally affect
Your
me.
kids do.
Yeah, but also I would, even if they were very, very rude to you, most of us would, I imagine, I mean, maybe I'm speaking for other people, but I imagine if the delivery boy was really rude, you would still be nice.
I would call his boss.
You would call his boss? Okay, I guess he was really rude. But would you be rude to him or would you be nice to him?
No, I feel sorry for him.
You'd feel sorry, you'd be nice. Maybe as you're saying, because it doesn't affect you as much.
You,
It doesn't affect you, so big deal. So he's rude, so what, exactly?
So that's why it's easy to be nice to them.
It
You
could
never see
be.
them again, and it's a
Yeah.
second thing.
Right, and we're trained to be nice. It's a virtue we've all absorbed. We're good people, and good people are nice to people, and good people are respectful to people, and we're all good people. So
Why
we're
do
all
so many
nice.
Men seem so out of it.
You're saying
They
they're not
can't-
they're not nice to the delivery boys?
No, they just can't like, you know, the book Men from Mars and like the whole like there's a reason why they're so different. There's no maybe give you a scare they just get things and they don't. Like
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
that's probably where like the noise.
Your noise comes from is like, I'm so functional and you're so not.
Yeah.
You know what? This is not what we're talking about now. We're talking about changing yourself, revitalizing marriage, but changing yourself. If you change yourself, will he change? Eventually. But for now, just you got to focus on yourself because you can change yourself. When you try to change him, you become the teacher, you become the critic, you become the mommy, and it's just diminish, 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 small, 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 negative, 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 shut down, shut down, shut down. And then some men go to the bar and some men go to the shear, but either way, they figure out a way not to be home. It's just, and nobody gained. Rena, did you have a question?
I learned something in a shir one time, that when Hashem kind of made both of our souls and then divided them, the man agreed to give more seichel to the woman. And
What an interesting
because
class.
because
We need it more.
honor or something. So she's kind of saying like, when we diminish our husband, it's like, it's not fair because he has to be, when like, you see like a lot of men. don't
He
honor
made us
him.
better than him.
Yeah.
That's very
kind of what she was
interesting.
getting at.
I wonder what her source was. I never heard that.
Me too. I was like, really?
But we could say, well, we know that's true. I mean, there is that famous story. I don't know if you know this famous story, like a Hasidic story of some great man, some very great boy, very brilliant, very wise, very holy. And so this great shidduch was made. And in those days, like the couple saw themselves like when they got married, like a year later or however many months later. So on like the day of the wedding, the kala sees the chassan, and nobody told her that he's wise and he's sweet and he's holy and he's physically deformed in some way. I don't remember the way, and whatever way was probably not the real way. It was a few hundred years ago. Who knows the real way? Something very big physical deformity. And she's like, no way, I'm not getting married to him. He is, I'm not getting married to him. I refuse. I'm not, he's great, he's holy, he's wonderful, he's saintly, he's not for me. So this is the day of the wedding, and she's calling off the shidduch. And believe it or not, though I know people try to stereotype and say that women had no choice, but that's not true. A woman does have a choice, and she told her parents, I'm not marrying him. That's it, we're done. Such an embarrassment, I'm not marrying him. Okay, so the parents, very embarrassed, give over this to the other side. I don't know, our daughter, whatever, she got really emotional, she's breaking it off. And Chassan says, I accept that totally, but I'd like a few minutes alone with the couple. And then that's fine. And when they met, what he said to her was, I understand why you're breaking it off. I completely respect it. I do have all these physical deformities, and I totally understand that you don't want to marry me for that, and it's fine. I just want to tell you one thing. When I was younger, it was revealed to me who my future bride would be and what she would look like. And I saw that she had certain physical deformities. And I davened to Hashem that I should have them instead of her.
That's real.
And yes, this is a real true story.
I have this
Yes, it's a very true story. And she listened, and she knew it was true, and they got married.
How did she know it was true?
I guess because he was such a holy person that when a holy person tells you something, they're not like, he's not bluffing. This is a very known story that I've seen many together. But I'm just piggybacking on Rena's example. But I'm not saying other people are so
They say that
consciously.
also with children with special needs, like maybe like in Shemayim, they said, I'll be the one to have these.
Or
raise
other
up
things,
kids and instead of you, so you should respect them and.
They say that about other things. So for whatever reason, and what she was saying is not wrong. It could be that what our husband does bothers us more than what anyone else does. I think what I'm saying is true too. I think the closer someone is to us, the more safe it feels to not be so nice. And probably both are true, and there might be other reasons, but for whatever reason, and Rena's true, it's a global thing. People could be nice to other people, but they're not going to speak so nicely to their husbands. So this New Year's resolution, revitalizing, adding positivity to the marriage is look at what you say, and I'd like you to go deeper, look at what you think. Meaning, some people do control how they speak. I mean, they're nice people and they're trained to speak nicely, or they're not going to be rude, or whatever reason they control themselves. But the negative speech really comes from negative thoughts. It's not like, oh, I just talk like this, it doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying adults, but among kids, they have this concept of saying something very rude and then saying, just kidding, JK. I don't know if you're aware. Yeah, you're aware of that. You have to have kids of a certain age. That is the most horrible thing. I just said the nastiest thing to you, but I said just kidding. So I didn't really mean it. So then why'd you say it? Well, I wanted to enjoy saying it, but I said just kidding. So that's obviously absurd. In a sense, we do that also. When we talk to our husband a certain way, we're like, he knows I don't mean it. He knows I'm stressed. He knows I just talked to him like that. There's a big just kidding we put around all of our words, which is as rude and obnoxious as when children say it to each other. They just say it overtly. But it comes from our thoughts. So it's good to watch your language. It's good to reframe your language. It's good to say, I'm going to be positive, even if he's not. You might even say, especially if he's not. But if you really want to make a significant change, you have to look at your thoughts. Well, they're my thoughts. What am I supposed to do about them? You're supposed to control them. And you're supposed to be aware that whatever negative thoughts you think, we usually recycle. We're not so creative. We think the same negative thoughts all the time. So if there's something about your husband that bothers you, it bothers you that he doesn't pronounce certain words properly. You're so embarrassed that he doesn't say certain words properly. It bothers you that he picks his nose. It bothers you that he takes off his shoes and socks and just throws them on the floor. Whatever bothers you. Your brain cycles those same things. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's so rude. Oh, my kids are going to be like this. Oh, it's so horrible. Oh, it's such bad training. Oh, it's all his mother's fault. Whatever it is. You just regurgitate these same thoughts. Look for them in your brain. Whatever those super highways are in your brain, you're always going to go back to them, because the more you think a thought, the easier it is to think it. If you always think, I don't understand why he always opens the light when he knows I'm sleeping in the room. So you just go right back there because you thought it so many times. It's such an easy go-to. So negative language is a problem. Negative thoughts is a deeper problem. It will be a real big gift. It's a gift to your kids. It's a gift to your marriage. It's a gift to your husband. It's a gift to yourself to identify two. Can you pick two negative thoughts and not allow yourself to think them? Just two. Just pick two things that you think all the time. And just don't let yourself think them. Well, I still have another 20 things I'm going to think. Okay, fine. Listen, you're not perfect. Let's start with two. But those two things, make a commitment to yourself. I want to change. I want to bring positivity into this marriage. Well, it's all his fault anyway. True, but that's irrelevant. We're talking about what you can take care of. What you can take care of is yourself. So even if it's all his fault, and even if you're right, it's all his fault, and then maybe you really should contemplate your marriage, but whatever, we're not going to go there now. Make a commitment to those two negative thoughts. I'm not going to think anymore. I'm just going to put up walls around them. I'm going to say taboo. I'm going to say forbidden. I'm not going to go there. And the same thing with your speech. If there's 2 or 3 negative things that you say, and you can't change everything. Some people can change their speech. Speech is not as hard to change as thought, obviously. Thought's much more intimate, and it's much harder to control. Speech is much easier to control. But if you can't control everything, pick a few choice, horrible things you have a tendency to sometimes say. And at least those things say, this is my gift to the marriage. This is my gift to my husband. This is my gift to my kids. A lot of times you have to phrase it as, this is my gift to my kids. Because if you're in a bad space in your marriage, you're not interested in giving him a gift. But you might still be wanting to give your kids a gift. This is my gift to my kids. And because I want to give my kids this gift, I'm not going to say these 3 things. And that would be very amazing. Any questions, any thoughts on that? Okay. 3rd one. Oh, we're moving up. I can tell you how many I have. I have a mere 11. We'll go to the 3rd. This is you're inspiring her, you see, because you take, she's gonna put out more next time. Yeah, wow. And that's good. This is different than what I said before. I know it's going to sound similar, but it's actually a little different. And that's why I put the first thing first of the gratitudes, because I'm a very big believer in them and I do it personally. And I think it's really amazing. But take time, like today, if this class is making you feel like you really would like to make a change, sit with a notebook, sit with a piece of paper, sit in front of your computer screen if that's how you write best, and write down objectively the positive qualities of your husband. Okay, this isn't like he took out the garbage today, I'm so grateful, or he drove the kids to school, or he did the carpool when I couldn't, or I made a horrible supper and he smiled and didn't and pretended it wasn't. You know, that's not. This is his positive qualities. At least 3. 3 is a very small amount. If you can come up with 10, that's great. But at least 3 really special things. And even if honestly marriage now isn't great, you should be able to come up with 3 positive qualities about this person. You should be able to come up with 3 positive qualities about anybody. And really think of like, what's unique about him? In what way does he shine as other people don't? What's some empowerment that if he was aware of it, he would be a different person, because he's really so special in this. And really write that down. What do I appreciate about him? Not even when he's dealing with you. Like, oh my gosh, my husband is so good with people. He's such a good people person. Now, personally, he does, that's irrelevant. It's a positive quality. It's something that he shines in. You know, he's a great cook. Well, it annoys me because then he makes a whole mess in my kitchen. I have to clean it all up. But he is a great cook. You know, really thinking about the positive qualities. Write it down. Keep it someplace that you could remember as positive qualities. And I didn't say this before. Look for opportunities to share them with him. Look for opportunities to express to him how you think he's so special. It does not have to be vis-a-vis yourself. You know, you could have just been at a party and he was so amazing and he went over to all the people that were on the side and he made them all feel good. He never does that for you, of course, because you're his wife, but he did it for all of them. And instead of being resentful, like, well, he never treats me that way, when you're going home afterwards, say, I was so impressed. I saw how you went over to all those people that nobody was talking to, and you spoke to them and you made them feel so good. That was so amazing. Your husband gave a speech somewhere. He did a great job. I'm so, you know, every time when you speak like that, it makes me feel so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. He cleaned up the whole kitchen. You were exhausted. You crashed. Woke up the next morning. Your kitchen was clean. It's a personal thing, but it's also a thing about him. What you're trying to do is show him how special he is. That's the psychology behind what you're trying to do here. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be something you're benefiting from. The more he feels he's special, and the more he feels you feel he's special, the more special he's going to become. It's true for everyone. I mean, you can use this for kids also, but right now we're talking about our husbands. Like, you know, you are so, not just you clean the kitchen, you are such a considerate person that you clean the kitchen. You're such a respectful person to me and my needs that you clean the kitchen.
You did it for like in-laws.
You could do
Parents.
anything we're saying for anyone. I was thinking, let's focus on our marriages. If you say, oh, this would be great for my mother-in-law, you know, feel free. But it's great. It's great for your children also. In other words, it's not just what they're doing, but you really want to identify why that's so special. You know, when there was that argument going on in shul and you took that side, I know you couldn't care less about the argument. You did it because nobody else was supporting him. I was so proud of you that you're such a compassionate person. I was proud of you because you're compassionate. So you're sharing with him, you're empowering him to know he's a compassionate person, to know he's a respectful person, to know he's a generous person. You know, when that Meshula came to the door, I know you didn't have the money you gave him. Instead of saying, and I was really resentful because we need it, you're saying, and I was so proud of how generous you are. You really are such a generous person. You want him to feel like he's a generous person. You want him to know he's a generous person. You want him to know he's a compassionate person. You want him to know he's so good with people and he's so caring. You don't say, because a lot of times people say, but he doesn't treat me that way. It's got nothing to do
They
with it.
love it, these men love it.
They love,
They love this like, I'm so creative,
of course they love it. Well, I mean,
They're like
wait,
little kids,
right?
they're like little kids.
We're not gonna say that. but-
wait. We wouldn't love it also?
No, but men like, I think they really.
They need it.
No,
They-
but
if anything,
looks-
need it
a lot of them
more.
More looks than women, like they're just more, they just need it more.
I don't
No,
know.
do you agree here? Do you think your husbands are like, just like the cheese babies, that need that like attention?
Like if they helped with the kid or something, they need like a huge praise, like, oh my
You know when
god.
they're sick, they get a little headache, I walk around with a headache all day. I don't know. I just think that
I agree.
Maybe what the truth is that we juggle a lot more and carry a lot more on our plate. And therefore, going back to what Rena was saying, maybe God, I think it's a very interesting thing what she said. Maybe God, like, maybe the men graciously self-sacrificed and made their women more competent. So therefore we are more competent. So instead of looking at them and saying, why aren't you as competent as me? You should say, oh, it's nice that at least you know to give me the competency. I remember once this was with a group of Bufferim, single men. And they're at my table, and I don't know, someone got to talk about Mashiach, and I was doing what you're not supposed to do, as I'm telling you not to do, and I was freely criticizing them. They're not my husbands. And I was saying, like, why aren't you doing more to bring Mashiach? And the response was, don't you know that the women are doing the work to bring Mashiach? I was like, ouch, you're not supposed to say that. That doesn't make a difference. We are the ones to bring Mashiach. We are better at it than you, but you should still step up to the plate. So we could sometimes have that feeling. Yes, I am better than you. God made me better. It's not because I'm better. It's because God made women, for sure, God made women able to juggle in a way that a man can't. We have to juggle. It's like a teacher. My son just became a teacher. I was sharing with him all the things a teacher has to be aware of at once. All the things a woman has to be aware of at once. Well, God made us different that we can be aware of those things. And that's part of this extra intuition, understanding that God gave us, that we can like do this and then do this and then do this. And we just sort of keep all the balls in the air. Men don't have that ability. Not because they're incompetent. They don't have that ability. It's a special gift God gave to us. So if you're home for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon with 5 kids and everything's fine, and then you go away for 45 minutes and you come back and everything's not fine, what you tell yourself before you walk in the door, because you already know what it's going to look like, is he doesn't have my abilities. Not because he's disabled, because God gave women abilities that he didn't give men, because we are supposed to do this. And it's fine for him to pinch hit for 45 minutes or for 3 hours. But I know what the house is going to look like. I know the state the kids are going to be in. He doesn't have my abilities. You can't feel bad. If you were teaching a child who had special needs, you wouldn't, God forbid, I hope not get upset with them. If you were dealing with someone with special needs, you wouldn't get upset with them if you have to say it 3 times very slowly.
Wait, you want something where her husband has special needs?
No, but I'm giving it as a muscle that the same way you would not get upset. No, I totally think you have special needs, but I want you to understand that I'm a very impatient person, but I'm not going to be impatient with Beryl. I'm going to talk to him if he needs to be spoken to, and I'm going to dive in that 3 times is going to be enough for him to understand it. It will or it won't. So the same way, why am I like that with him? I'm an impatient person. It's not because I'm patient. I'm not patient at all. Because I understand this is him with tremendous gifts that I don't have, tremendous gifts that I don't have. So the same way, when you walk into your house and you know what it's going to look like, you just know you have gifts your husband doesn't have. Not because you have gifts, because you're a woman and women have gifts that men don't have. And God made you that way because this is your general job of keeping all the balls in the air.
So where's the balance? What does the guy do?
The balance is that he has abilities that you don't have. And he does have abilities that you don't have, and he has things that he can do that you cannot do. And we're not going to talk about it a lot now because that's not really the focus, but I'm saying, just going back to my list, maybe let's focus that list. I said on his positive great qualities, which you want to tell him, and you want to attribute the underlying thing, meaning going back to it. It's not just, I'm making my list of his 3 positive qualities. And one of his positive qualities is he cleans the kitchen. My point isn't that I want to tell him he's so amazing because he cleans the kitchen. I want to tell him, every time you clean the kitchen, you make me feel so taken care of. I so appreciate it that you're so respectful. I so appreciate it that you're so considerate. I so appreciate that you're so thoughtful. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't need him to think of himself like, I'm great, I clean the kitchen. That's not going to do much for him. But you want him to understand, I'm great. I'm a considerate, thoughtful person. That's going to do something for him. So going back to what Rena said, maybe since I'm only asking you for 3, which is a very small amount for the person you've been living with for quite a number of years, specifically think of ways he's good that you're not. Think of ways he's good that you're not. Because you should be able to find ways, because everything's a should have. So there are things your husband is good at that you are not. Can anyone here off the top of their head with 2 seconds think of something your husband is good at that you're not?
You want us to call it out?
No, I'm just asking who can think of something he's good at that you're not. I'm asking for what? You don't say what. Just
Denials and things like that, can't do that.
okay, fine. With 3 people here, with 4 people, and this was seconds. Just think of one thing that he's good at that you're not. A million things.
That's how we have it now.
So honestly, everyone has things that they're good at that their husband's not, and everyone has things you could say, but those things aren't so important. I don't care. Going back to what Rena said, you should appreciate that your husband can do. I remember one woman telling me with all this bad stuff about her husband. I'm like, come on, give me one thing. She said, he's excellent in a crisis. I said, that's a huge thing. That's huge. That's huge. And often men are better in a crisis than women.
Yeah.
But it's a certain, again, it's just something, again, not that him, it's just how God made men versus women. So that's like, I'm just giving that sort of a thing. Like, so when you're thinking, oh yeah, in a crisis, he's really good. He's really strong. He's really supportive. So that's something he's good at. And it's something I'm not good at. And then when I say that to him, I want to bring that in. I was just thinking, I mean, you shouldn't have to wait for your next crisis. But you could be remembering and you could share with him, I was just remembering how last week or last month or last year or Corona or whatever it was, you were so strong in that crisis. Honestly, I was falling apart and you were so strong. And I really appreciate your strength. I really appreciate that I can lean on you in those situations. It's not just what he's doing. You want to get to a quality underneath it and you want to share with him that quality, because what you're trying to do here, besides, the positivity for yourself, you're really trying, which goes back to what Dina said before, you're really trying to empower him. And men are far less self-aware than women. Generally, again, it's just something women are better at than men.
Of everything?
Aware of themselves. They might be in general less aware, but they're also, but that's not what I meant. I meant they're less self-aware. Meaning if you would ask a woman, say 3 strong qualities you have, most women could come up with them. I mean, maybe they'd be embarrassed, they don't want to sound like they're boasting, whatever. But I'm saying, if you thought about your head, most of us know what our strengths are, and we know what our weaknesses are. Many men don't. They don't reflect the way we do. They don't introspect the way they do. They don't think about themselves. They're more, Rena said, so what does a man do? A man is much more geared in the action mode. Which is good if they have to make a living, if they imagine the men in the fields, imagine the men warding off the invaders, there's a reason that men are wired that way, but they are wired to be much more in the action mode. And women are nurturers. We're supposed to be nurturers. We're supposed to nurture our children. We're supposed to nurture our husbands. We're supposed to nurture our families. We're supposed to nurture ourselves. We're supposed to nurture our homes. So as nurturers, we much more reflect on people. That's not just in general. I mean, making a very broad general statement, but women teachers are usually better than men teachers. Again, that's a broad statement. There's some amazing men teachers. There are plenty of horrible women teachers, but in general, women are more focused on a person. They're more going to understand a child. They're more going to relate to that. Not meaning there's not great men teachers, not meaning there's not horrible women teachers, but as a quality, women possess that more. So therefore, what I'm trying to say in my long-winded way is your husband could be very unaware of all of these strengths that you're aware of in him. He doesn't think about them. He doesn't know they exist. And he might feel differently about himself and therefore act differently and therefore ultimately be that better father and husband when he was empowered. Think of it they say putting things in your toolbox or filling up your bucket or, any of those terms people use for it with very real things. You're not saying something that's not true. You're saying a real thing he does with a real quality underneath it, and you're giving him the gift of empowerment. Why do I want to give him that gift? For him, for me, for our kids. It's really helping everyone when I'm gifting. Same thing like compliments. Some people, we're not gonna speak about compliments now because we're over time, but some people are very like stingy in their praise. Like, you know, you have to deserve it. If you deserve it, you know, people are like that with themselves, people are like that with their kids, people like that with their husbands, like when they deserve it. Be effusive in praise. Don't be stingy. Why? Because it really helps people when you praise them. Not fake, but real, sincere praise is a beautiful tool. It's a beautiful tool to help yourself. It's a beautiful tool to help your kids. It's a beautiful tool to help your husbands.
What about someone who doesn't praise you on purpose because they don't want to acknowledge that you did something wrong?
So again, there are people out there like that.
Will
They
never,
purposely won't praise you, why?
purposely won't say anything nice or good about something.
Because it's
they
like
don't
giving you
acknowledge that
it's
I
giving you,
capable
it's
of having done something well,
because it's giving you a power. They don't want to give you that power.
because I didn't enlist their help, and so therefore, there's no way. I didn't enlist their help, so there's no way that I could possibly pull this off and done it properly without their help.
So therefore, if they praise you, they're acknowledging you did, and they don't want to acknowledge that.
Exactly.
So I would go exactly what we discussed last week. I would just have compassion for them and move on. Yeah, but I'm saying, but have compassion. You change something like that. Have compassion for them. Have compassion
Yeah.
because they were hurt in some way that's why they behave that way. No,
Because if she's not.
no, the opposite. It's the opposite. No. It's the opposite. Well, it depends how deep rooted it is. It depends what the traumas was, why that person's the way they are. But assuming it's not intense traumas, it could just be education, like her parents never complimented her.
No, it's not that. It's purposeful. It's purposeful.
Compliment you could try, and maybe you'll surprise yourself. It might take 6 months, but it might happen. Wait for it to happen. You might be surprised. Make a bet with yourself how long it's going to take. Let's see. But like going back to, remember, I think we were discussing this last week. I don't remember. We did the last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was speaking about this woman that I went to be Menachem Avo, whose mother like survived like Stalin, and her mother was so tough till her last day in her 90s. She was such a tough woman, and the woman, she's older than me. The woman never felt like really appreciated and loved by her mother. And then after her mother passed away, she was going to her neighbors, and the neighbor, you know, whatever, she was cleaning out the apartment or something, and the neighbor said, "Oh my gosh, your mother thought so highly of you. Your mother was always telling me how proud she was of you." And the woman thinking, really? I never knew that. And it's really true. Some people, because of what they've been through in life, they have those walls up. They don't know how to say nice things to people. They don't know how to express love. They don't know how to give compliments. It could be for a lot of reasons. Again, some people believe I got to make my kids tough. I don't want to be nice, and my kids have to be tough. You have to survive this world. Some people are themselves made very toughened by life. It doesn't mean they don't feel those things. They don't know how to say it. And some people don't feel those things. But even to someone, or maybe saying especially to someone who is never going to give you a compliment, it's a beautiful thing to make a special effort to compliment them. To especially little details. It doesn't have to be like their underlying character traits. Their scarf, their jewelry, their no.
She's like it with other people, but yeah, no, she's like with other people. It's not just me.
So this is the way, never compliments.
So I'm saying
No, she will compliment some.
compassion,
If she's involved, she'll compliment.
compassion and compliment, for exactly because you want to disengage. I don't want to say this about another person, but our sages say one who fights with someone who's dirty becomes dirty. So when you play someone else's game, you pick up their dirt. So you don't need to pick up their dirt.
It's a dangerous game. Like,
So disengage from the person totally,
No, I'm
but don't play their game.
yeah, but I'm saying, let's say you're around someone who did something that was dangerous to you. And you try to avoid them, and they're trying to be malicious, and you're like, you know what, don't touch my things, I won't touch your things, let's just you know, whatever.
If you're around someone who's dangerous, disengage and get away from that situation. You don't want to be around someone who's dangerous for any reason. Not because you don't want to get dirty, because you don't want to be hurt. You don't want your kids hurt.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm saying, let's say you work together or something. It's like a thing that you have to work with each other. What do you do?
put up walls and barriers and be very distant, polite and very distant. Don't play their games. Meaning, like, if you work with someone and they're always trying to undercut you, they're always trying to tell your boss how you didn't really do the work and they did the job, or criticize you, or when you were on your phone, they're always backstabbing you. Don't play their game. Don't backstab them. Don't report all of their flaws to the boss. Don't play their game. They're dirty. You don't have to pick up their dirt. You could be very cold. You could be very distant. You could make sure we don't have to eat lunch together. You could try to get jobs where you work separately and aren't teamed together.
Will you drink my water?
I would drink your water. Yes. But don't play their game. It's a rule of our sages. It's a very true rule. When you fight with someone who's dirty, you become dirty. We don't need to become dirty. If the other person is playing the game and never going to compliment me, you compliment them. If the other person is going to criticize me to the boss, compliment them to the boss. It sounds bizarre. What am I complimenting this creep for? Because I'm not playing the game. Because I'm not going to become dirty. Because I'm going the other extreme.
What if it's a relative, so you can distance yourself?
Don't play their game. Don't get dirty. Whatever they're doing, don't find yourself doing the same thing because they're doing it to me.
If they don't like you, the issue might.
Exactly. If they don't invite you, you invite them, and you personally invite them, and you graciously invite them. Exactly. Everyone else, you sent a WhatsApp invitation. To this person, you call.
I really want you there.
Okay, but then just going back to a spouse, what if it's a spouse, like playing dirty or criticizing because you're a mirror of that person?
Don't respond. Don't play that game. Don't play that game. It just dirties you.
Wait, what was the question?
So if your spouse is not complimenting, so you
Or
compliment.
I'm actually
Criticizing. So you,
Oh, honey, thanks so much for that.
no, you don't say thanks so much, but what you could say is, oh, I never realized. Good, you told me.
You just keep accepting that, just the door just being piled on?
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of work on, like.
No, she's not a schmata.
That was waste.
She's not a schmata. She's very strong.
Why can you say it hurts my feelings? Don't say that.
Because if the person is doing it that way, he's doing it to hurt your feelings.
It gives them, it gives them the.
So why would you, what are you going in that direction for? It's the opposite. I mean, just think of two kids fighting, right? Don't you always tell your children, if you don't get bothered by what they're doing, they'll stop doing it.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, it's just my kids and it's human interactions. Don't get bothered by it, ignore it, they'll stop it. The game's no fun unless you engage, right? Right? That's how it works. So, it seems like that's what you're saying. If someone's criticizing, it sounds to me how you're saying is they're trying to be hurtful. So if they're trying to be hurtful, don't get hurt.
But if it's someone so close to you, they obviously know how to hurt you.
So then you learn to put up the barriers, and you go back to what we discussed last week about compassion. Someone who needs to hurt has been hurt. Why does this person feel a need to hurt? Because he has been hurt. That's why he's feeling a need to hurt.
Just because someone's hurt, we should accept their hurt. And
If I am
No.
staying in this marriage, I'm making a choice to stay in a marriage. Again, and this is like the space people get to. I don't always advise people to stay in marriages. But if someone's making a choice to stay in a marriage, then you want it to become a better marriage, right? That's like someone was saying something here before about that idea. Like, well, what if you're in a, I think from what I was, you're in a bad marriage. So why should you be all positive? You're in a bad marriage. As long as you're trying to, as long as you made a decision to stay in the marriage, it doesn't have to be because of love for your husband. For whatever reason, you decide to stay in the marriage. Maybe you decide to stay in marriage for the next 6 months. Maybe you have a year plan and in 1 year you're getting divorced. But for some reason, for the next year, you're staying in the marriage. You want to build up your business first. You want your kids to finish this grade of school first. You have a decision. You're going to get divorced in July of next year. So what? So for the next year, have a better life instead of a worse life. So if someone is trying to be hurtful, they obviously are hurting so much if they're trying to inflict pain on someone else. So you can have compassion. And as we discussed last week, compassion is a very powerful tool that shifts the energy. It does it. I can guarantee you it does this. That's what I speaks about in Tanya. It shifts the energy You cannot be hurt by someone you're feeling compassion for. And again, you prep yourself in advance. I'm not saying if this was the issue, and if this husband, who could hurt you more than your own husband, you know he has this issue, you know he's trying to inflict pain, you know you decide you're staying in the marriage for now, you should, that's a separate issue. You are staying in this marriage. You see a future in it, you feel you can build, you can make it better, or you're just not ready now to get divorced for whatever reason. You're staying in the marriage, so you want the marriage to get better. So you spend time talking to yourself, having compassion. If you know why he acts this way, you could think about what you know. If you don't know why he acts this way, you can imagine what he's been through that he acts this way. And then when he's acting that way, you just put yourself in that space that you worked on before, so it's easy to get into. Once you work on something, it's like a muscle, you can just like dive right into it. So you're diving, you built it up before, but at the moment you dive into that whole bubble of compassion, his childhood, his traumas, his father, his mother, his grandfather, his grandmother, all that stuff. And then what he's going to say isn't going to hurt. Now, maybe you're so busy thinking compassion, you're not even hearing what he's saying, so you're not positively responding. That's fine. Just do there. And then like nothing happened. And then that will shift him. That will shift a person. It's not going to shift him tomorrow because he may be doing this for 25 years, but it will shift him. And it's the only thing that will shift him. And saying that hurt me won't shift him. But going back to what Eugenia said, if this is not a person who tries to hurt you, not at all. Your loving husband, he's so supportive, he's so loving, you have a wonderful marriage. And he says to you, I think you're gaining weight. You could say, I know for a man that's factual, for a woman that's an emotional statement. So
What if he says I'll buy you something to lose weight?
so that then you can say that. You can say that. Say if I'll buy you something, if I'll buy you that really nice piece of jewelry if you lose weight, you could say, I know as a man that's a very factual statement. Because for men it is. For men it is a factual statement. That doesn't make a difference. You could still say to him that you were hurt. What I'm trying to say is a person who's not trying to hurt you, you could say you were hurt by. Because they're not trying to hurt you. They feel horrible. They didn't mean to hurt you at all. A person who's trying to hurt you, you don't say you were hurt by them. Because that's exactly what they want. So what are you saying that for? You're feeding into what they want. But a person who's not trying to hurt you, like I'm just saying a simple example, because men literally don't think it's a hurtful statement to tell their wives to gain weight. They don't think it's hurtful because for a man, it wouldn't be hurtful. And for most women, it's very hurtful. So that's fine to tell him, I know, and he didn't mean it to be hurtful. I know you didn't mean it this way at all. I just want to give you a little secret. For all women, that's a really hurtful statement. I know you didn't mean to be hurtful. Never say it again for the rest of her life. Okay? That's it.
And I still want my bag.
I still want the present, but I don't want to have to earn it by losing weight. No, never. You don't want that relationship with your husband because it's a very hurtful thing. Okay, yes, I have to go also. I went way over. I have to go. All right, we are ending at this very moment and I am running out, courtesy of school and carpooling and therapies and all those wonderful things.